Welcome to Medicare School Daily, where we help you understand Medicare, save money, avoid mistakes, and above all else, get the most out of your Medicare benefits. Now, today's topic is how does a group retiree plan work with Medicare? And what we're saying is that you or your spouse no longer working and you have a retiree plan, either you or your spouse's, that's available to you. How is that going to work or coordinate with Medicare? Now, we're going to answer the question. I'm going to address 5 different very important issues. Number 1, if you or your spouse no longer working, we're on a retiree plan, you must enroll in Medicare Parts A and B. And notice, at 65, you have no option in this area whatsoever. You're going to have to enroll, which means what? You're going to have to pay your Part B premium. Now, I'm doing this in 2020 right now, and the Part B premium for most people is $144.60 a month. Now, Part A is typically free as long as you have 40 quarters paid into Medicare. Part A will be free. And Part B is, though, going to have a premium, and right now it's $144.60. Now, this is provided that if a single person, your income is below $87,000, that is correct. If you're a married couple, $174,000 modified adjusted gross income. If you're that or below that, then that will be correct. If you're above those numbers, then your Part B premium will actually be higher. But let's assume right now you're at $144.60. This is taken right out of your Social Security check, if you're taking Social Security. And if you're not, they're going to bill you this quarterly, which means it'd be times 3, which is basically about $450 every quarter. But either way, we're going to have to pay for our Part B premium. So we're going to have to enroll in Medicare A and B. Number 3. Now, when it comes to the coordination of the benefits, who's going to pay first, who's going to pay second, again, this is etched in stone. This is not up for negotiation. This is the way it's going to be. Medicare is going to pay first. And your retiree plan, if you keep that plan, is going to pay second. Now, some of you are going to decide, no, I don't want that retiree plan. I'm actually just going to do a normal supplemental plan, okay? A supplemental plan. Those plans are given letters. Most people get an F, a G, or an N plan, but the point is you have a supplemental plan. So if you're retired, Medicare is going to pay first. That means those bills are going to go to Medicare. They're going to pay their portion, and they're going to take the balance of that. If you're on a retiree plan, it's going to go to them. If you don't have a retiree plan, then the balance that's going to go to the supplemental plan. All right, so that's exactly the way it's going to pay. Now listen, some of you are going to be offered by your retiree plan. They're going to offer you what is called an Advantage plan. Advantage plan. All right? Now, an Advantage plan is not a supplemental plan. An Advantage plan is actually a replacement plan. So in this instance, what happens is actually Medicare doesn't pay first for sure. What's going to happen is you're on an Advantage plan, and that means you're going to pay first, which is your copay based upon whatever services you're getting. And the balance of that then is going to go to the Advantage plan, and then they're going to pay the remaining portion of that particular bill. All right, so the whole point is this. This is the way things are going to be paid out depending upon what insurance you select. That brings us then to the 4th issue, and that's this. The Part B date is critical. And here's what I'm talking about. Let's just suppose that your birthday is, I'm just going to make this up, it is January the 3rd, 1956. And that means that you're turning 65 January 2021. So when you enroll into Medicare, as you must do, your A date is going to say on the Medicare card 1/1/2021, and your B date is going to say 1/1/2021. Now this B date, folks, is critical. And this is why. From the beginning of the B date, the way this works is that you can have any supplemental plan that you would choose. Now remember, some of you are going to have a retiree plan. Some of you may not have a retiree plan and decide to get a supplemental plan, right? And then I said earlier, some of you, your only option is going to be with the retiree plan. They're going to offer you some type of an Advantage plan. But what this B date is critical for, folks, are supplemental plans. These are what are available to all people, but what's critical is during this 6 months of this B date, you can have any supplemental plan that you want. Any of them that are on the market, regardless of your health conditions, you're a guaranteed issue. In other words, the insurance company that you want to buy that from has to write that policy to you regardless of your health conditions. And that 6 months starts on the B date. So in my example, that is going to be January, February, March, April, May, June, which means from July 1, 2021 on, our 6 months is now over. Now what happens? Let's suppose I'm on Medicare is going to be first, and I do take that retiree plan. And then 9 months later or 2 or 3 years later, what's going to happen? If I want to pick up a supplemental plan, my 6 months of opportunity to be able to get anything I want is now gone, which means to pick up a normal supplemental plan, if you drop your retiree plan, you're going to have to medically qualify to do that. Now let's suppose that you start with the supplemental plan. In other words, you say, I'm not going to take my retiree plan, I'm going to use the supplemental plan. That just simply means for the first 6 months, you can have anything you want. During that 6 months, every insurance company has to write that policy for you and give you that coverage. Now, let's suppose that you start with an Advantage plan. You decide that you're going to be on a retiree plan, and they don't offer a secondary plan, they only offer an Advantage plan. So once you've been on that Advantage plan more than 6 months and you ever want to get off of that, now we're going to have to medically qualify to do that. And that's why I'm teaching you the B date of Medicare is critical, because everyone that's eligible for Medicare goes into what is called a Medigap, which is Medicare supplemental plan, a Medigap open enrollment period. But that only lasts 6 months. You can have anything you want. So depending on what you decide up here is going to affect your eligibility for a supplemental plan in the future. And then that takes us to issue number 5. The retiree plan options. What options do you have available? Well, number 1, you may decide you want to keep that retiree plan, or you may decide you want to drop that plan. And so who is it that may want to keep their retiree plan? Well, in my opinion, this really boils down to finances. No matter what we do, we know we're going to have to pay Medicare the $144.60. So the question would be, what does it cost you out of your pocket to be covered by that retiree plan? And as a general rule of thumb, if you're paying more than $150 or $200 a month for that retiree plan, you really may not want to keep the plan. Now, if your spouse is younger and covered by the retiree plan and you were to drop the retiree plan and then they would lose their coverage, then you are going to most certainly probably want to stay on that plan unless your younger spouse has other insurance options, all right? And so that can happen. But the point is, who wants to keep it? Well, if the price is good and the coverage is good, which means you're happy with the deductibles, you're happy with the way it's going to coordinate with Medicare, then you may want to keep the plan. But again, if you're paying $150 to $200 more a month for that plan and you're the only one covered by the plan, then you may want to look at just normal Medicare options. All right, so that's the ones they're going to keep it. The ones that are going to drop it, again, if you're paying a lot for it, you're probably going to want to drop that plan. Now, another reason would be, let's say that your company only offers you an Advantage plan, and that's it. And you're not comfortable with the Advantage plans. Why? Because of copays, because of network restrictions, because of pre-certifications that are required on Advantage plans, and because of what I just taught you earlier, after 6 months, you're going to have to medically qualify to get off the Advantage plan. And so the whole point is there's some of you that will want to drop that and you will go into the normal Medicare market, which means you would have A and B with possibly a supplemental plan, or you would have a normal market Advantage plan. Again, I've got lots of teaching on those for you to decide which way you want to go, but those are your options, either keep it or drop it. And so these are the issues that you're going to have to address, but you want to make sure that you're making the right decision because that decision could be permanent. To learn more, watch the related video or check out our most recent video. Also, be sure you click to subscribe for free and get notified every time we post a new video. To watch our complete Medicare workshop, go to MedicareSchool.com. And finally, when you're ready to compare all your insurance options and get free enrollment help from one of our Medicare School guides, call the number on the screen. See you next time.